our Team Video Official Season 3 podcast. Extremely excited for this season. She inspires me. I am beyond delighted to be able to bring you a series of many beautiful, strong, and courageous women who inspire us on the daily. Many of us have people that, whether they know it or not, just by their actions, they inspire us, by who they are, by things that maybe they've accomplished. And here in the next series, through the next 8 to 9 weeks, you're going to be able to listen from many women that we have chosen inside of Team Beauty that inspire us. I'd like to say they are the upcoming. They have been working in silence, and today you are going to be able to hear their story. So today, inside of She Inspires Us, you inspire me, Patty. Okay, we have Miss Patty. I want to say Patty Rodriguez-Pena. Welcome, Patty, to the podcast. How do you feel?
Powerful. No, what an honor. Thank you so much for having me here today. And just the saying of you inspire me, that's crazy how you've always inspired us. Mm-hmm. And now just to hear that coming back from you, it's like, wow, what are the odds? Like how everything has changed, right?
Feel very proud. Feel very proud up to today,
yes.
Of all of the things that you have done. Mm-hmm. For those of you that don't know, right, Patty is a brand new mom. Yes. And even though you're not a mom, stay on because this topic, is going to help everyone. She's a brand new mom, and we've been able to see her journey, her transformation, her pregnancy. And one of the things, Patty, that inspires us about you is that literally we see you nonstop.
Yes.
That's your nickname. Patty Nonstop Rodriguez-Pena.
Let's go.
So tell us a little bit about you, Patty, before we get into, now as a new mom, how did Team Beauty find you? What's your story?
So a little background. So, currently 30 years old. I found Team Beauty, 8 years ago. When, sometimes you're not even searching for it. I was 45 pounds heavier. I just graduated college. And I started this journey for thinking for my husband. I'm like, he's the one that needs to drop the weight. Let's do something like that. And little did I know, I dropped 35 pounds from a size 12, dropped to a size 0 and 2, my smallest. And a little bit of that I want to talk is how I went through body dysmorphia. I never thought to myself that I was that small. I always saw myself as a big girl. So that's a little bit of what I went through in the beginning of my journey, starting to learn to love myself. And it was not just one transformation. It was not just the 35 pounds. It really took years of just being able to look at myself in the mirror and admiring what I was seeing with stretch marks and just being like, at least I have my legs and at least I have my arms. So that's
for everybody that is listening here that might not know what body dysmorphia is. Can you elaborate a little bit?
For sure. I think it's a little bit of what I thought it was for me, because you could go into it. And it's when you don't see yourself where you're at physically, where you look at yourself in the mirror. And for example, I was at 128, extremely small, at 5'5", and size 0 and 2. I was a petite person at that time. And I still felt myself as a 180. I felt like a big girl. And I think with all this came taking it back to when I was in middle school. I was a heavy kid. I was sitting probably 190 as a kid. And I think, just looking back into how I was raised, Mexican American, with the tamales, everything, just on Sundays you have barbacoa, and that's just the norm, to just eat Mexican food. It was just so normal, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I hit my I want to say ideal weight, I guess you could say, I never saw myself as a small person. And I remember I would look at my friends that, growing up with them, they've always been petite. And I'm like, I share their clothes. We share clothes. And I'm like, it just never made sense how I was fitting in their clothes, because I still saw myself big. I think that's what it is.
But we're not the same, right?
Exactly. I couldn't compare myself to her body, which is really important. I think that's another thing I've learned through my journey. Never compare yourself, which is the hardest thing, because I think sometimes we do want to compare yourself to in the aspect of for growth, like, okay, what is she doing? Because I want to get to that point, but never for the point of if you're comparing yourself to where you make you feel less valuable or belittle yourself. And I think at that time in my journey, I was doing that. I was like, oh, but I don't look like her. And she's always been small and she's always been like this. So that's kind of where I started with my journey, where yes, I was at my smallest, but I never enjoyed it. I guess you could say that.
And, how long did it take you from, losing 35 pounds? Because that's amazing, right?
Yes.
Like, you lost weight, you're
Yes.
finally a size 0 or 2. I think that was junior high when I was a size 0 or 2, okay?
I was never that size.
So
like,
you're
until
finally
then,
that size and you're unhappy.
Yes.
You're not.
I was still so hard on myself, as in like, I still need more. Like, I don't know what more was, but I was like, no, I want to look like that. And I want to look like the girl on Instagram and whatever, right, it was. And it took me about 4 months to drop those 35 pounds, learning a lot about eating. I was that person that I was a complicated client. To start off with that, I know my coach is going to be like, yes, she was. I was but why do you need this? And why do you need protein? And why this? And why that? That was me. And that's how I started my journey, with a lot of whys, a lot of whys. And dropping the weight through the 4 months, I started learning that food was not my enemy. I think that was a big thing too. That learning that food was not, I shouldn't feel disgusted when I eat food or feel bad because I'm enjoying this meal. I would always tell to myself, like, this meal's so good, it's not healthy. Like, how can a healthy meal be so good? And that was like the battles I would tell myself going through the journey. Like, and that's because we would cook the meals. And I would be like, no, it might have too much salt, or it might have too much this. I would always find it's too good to be true. I guess that was where I was going through. And so through that journey, the 4 months, learning a lot of that food is not your enemy. Learning that food is your fuel. Like, you need food to move around, and the more you eat, the more you drop. Obviously, the healthy, like, that was hard for me. The more you eat, the more you drop. That was like, oh my God, that's true.
Did that make you happy?
Kind of.
Eating?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know, because I was so anti, like, but why are you eating so much? Like, is that healthy? Like, can I sustain eating this much? And when I say eating too much, guys, I mean like my 6 meals, my 6 portions of meals, which at the end of the day, when we break it down, it's not a lot. It should be what it is. But, I think it took me more than a year to be like, I'm proud of where I'm at. I think it was more than my first transformation.
A lot of the times people join a challenge, like the one we're in right now,
For
right?
sure.
And expect first 2 weeks, like, if I don't get the results, I'm out.
Yeah.
And so, or first month, first 2 months, what could you tell somebody before we go into the next topic? What could you tell somebody that, is starting on their journey and is working not only on losing weight, but being mentally strong?
I think a phrase that truly, truly changed my whole perspective of my journey, it was, how long did it take you to gain the weight? And then ask yourself that. How long did it take you to gain the weight? Don't expect it to drop it in a month.
That's right. Yes.
That was something that, like, as simple as that question could be, it took me my whole college career. I had gained over 45 pounds, 4 years. So, and I made the math. I'm like, I can't expect to drop it in a month. So stop being hard on yourself. That was my own wake-up call. Like, stop being so hard and start enjoying it. And that's kind of where that whole transition of, like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy let's see where this takes me to. And that's where my weight loss journey started.
Yes, and always looking fine like wine, okay? Because your results are amazing right now. But, before the baby, it's like
a whole other thing.
Yes, right? And, now you're going through postpartum. How old is your baby right now?
3 months.
3
officially.
months. And did you want to have kids?
No. As crazy as it is, no, I didn't. It's a crazy topic, but I didn't. There was a phase where you know, me and my husband have been together for the past 10 years. So a lot of phases we've gone through together, college, becoming adults, like, you know, from teenagers to like this and that. So we went through a lot of phases together, a lot of learning lessons. And of course, in the beginning, you know, your friends are having kids. You're like, oh, I want a kid. And then like out of the nowhere for like 3 years, I was like, I don't want kids. Like dead on serious, like I don't want kids. And it's not because I don't like kids. Like I love kids. Like I've always, I don't know, I just enjoy being with kids. I'm like the super tia, I would always say. And but it was just this fear of like, no, like to bring kids to the world, and there's so much happening, and like it's just so much going on. And one of the things I remember telling my mom, I think it got so serious when I told my parents. One thing is talking about it with my husband, and he was never so against it. He just kind of like went with the flow, I guess, because he knew it wasn't time for us to still, like he wasn't gonna push me to have kids at that time. That was, which I think was really smart of him. So he never pressured me on that, which I think it was really good. But the moment I said it out loud to my parents, I think that's when it hit me. And my dad's like, have you talked to your husband? And I was like, I have. He knows that I don't want kids. And so that's kind of where my dad's like, you know, again, the tradition of like, what do you mean you don't want kids? Like, it was just like, everybody was so shocked about it. And I was like, I am too. Like, one thing is thinking it to yourself, and one thing is saying it out loud. That's a whole nother ballgame. And then from there, from my parents, it started to like, my grandma asked me, and I told my grandma, like, I don't want kids. And it's como el pecado. Like, it's like, what do you mean you don't want kids? And I remember telling my mom, I was like, I'm so scared to get judged of how you're going to raise your kid. I don't want to get emotional. But the thought of like, people are going to judge you of anything. I'm going to get emotional. And I think that was, my mom told me, she's like, you can't stop because of that. Like, don't, because of the fear of this, you cannot like not enjoy what it is to be a mom. And I think my mom said it so like peacefully, like she didn't pressure me tampoco. And then from there, like I remember my partner and I, for the first time, had like a huge argument. In 10 years, we had never gone through a fight. And I'm forever grateful that we went through it. I think it shook me, it woke me up. It just moved us in the relationship. Again, we were so comfortable with each other for 10 years. And I remember where we're like, I remember telling him, I want to have your kids. Like, at that moment, like we're going through this huge fight.
And you made up that
and I was
day.
like, that's when I want the baby. I'm ready. That was when I told him, like, oh my God, like if we were in that moment of like, we don't know if we're going to continue with each other. It was probably our biggest, like I'm telling you, a moment of, we were shook and we were like, man, 10 years and this could just be done. But that was my wake-up call. I'm like, I do want to have your baby. and the fight wasn't even that. Like, it had nothing to do with the baby.
That was out of right field.
Yes, I was like, I'm ready. And I did tell him, like, I want to get pregnant before I turn 30. I want to have a baby before 30. So law of attraction, guys, careful with what you declare. Because what are the odds? I turned 30 on the 6th and baby's born on the 29th. So just within days, you know, I had baby after that. So I'm like, but forever grateful for experiencing what it is to be a mom. The pregnancy, I enjoyed it so much. I never felt pregnant. Not even till like the last day. Like maybe at midnight, I'll be like, oh, my feet hurt. But I didn't go through what a lot of moms I've heard, that like by a certain amount of time, they're like, I can't walk. I didn't, which I'm so grateful for that too. I didn't experience the I feel pregnant part.
Well, you know,
I looked pregnant.
You know, misery, right, is a big thing. Being uncomfortable is a big thing. Maybe even getting pregnant and not expecting it. and not being comfortable with it, there's so many different stories, and your story inspires us so much, Patty, because you haven't stopped, right? Prior to having a baby, you were in your fitness journey. You were, looking amazing. Yes. You were working out, eating healthy. As you guys can see, her attitude is bright, right? She's always somebody that's willing. You have an amazing spirit, an amazing person that you are. And you find out you get pregnant, right? Yes. And you keep going. She keeps showing up. She's working out. Worked out till what week?
39 weeks and 1 day.
39 weeks and 1 day. 4 days later, you have baby. Yes. And like 3 weeks later,
I'm up.
She's working out again, so you are a huge inspiration to many women that are still thinking about, do I get up today? Mm-hmm. Do I do something today? And, what is the reason, Patty, that you are nonstop? What is the reason? I could tell you that it took me a while, to get active during my pregnancy, to even get active after my pregnancy. It took me a while to create a habit inside of my fitness, and you have been so great inside of that, doing splits and everything. Oh, okay. Yes. So yes. For our listeners, what is it that drives you? How does Patty talk to herself? What is it about you that hasn't allowed you to have a letdown, to, fall in the black hole, to just stop and be like, I'm pregnant, I'm going to stop. Or I just had a baby, give me my space, I'm going to stop. Why have you decided that for yourself? And then how do you tell yourself every day, let's go? Yeah.
That's I think through the 9 months, I mentally prepare myself. But again, it was not just 9 months. I think it's been the 8-year journey of being surrounded with empowerment, with the beauties and the girls because like I said, in the beginning of my journey, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror, self-love. And that's because I was so young. There was no self-love. There was no self-respect, eating out, whatever you wanted. That just, to me, it shows now looking back, I didn't care. I didn't care what I was putting in my body. And, when I got pregnant, I remember, we didn't announce till 4 months. So I would come to the workouts, baggy shirts, and it was the trend, or I think it's still a trend, the big shirts. And so I was like, no one's going to know. I'm still doing my burpees, teaching class, todo. Everything. And it never clicked to me how your first trimester could be so, you have to be so careful. It just never clicked to me stop, or it never crossed my mind. I would always just tell God, I would just pray to God, Diosito, it's on your hands. And, but to me, the teaching the classes and being involved made me feel so part of it. I didn't want to feel disabled. I didn't want to feel because I got pregnant, I had to stop doing what I truly enjoy doing, whether it was teaching a class or working out or just being around the girls. So I think to me that was the biggest thing, not wanting to feel a certain type of way because I got pregnant.
Disabled is something that we hear a lot. There's quotes everywhere. It's you're pregnant, not
don't do that, or
not disabled, right? Yeah. And so that's so powerful that you were able to grab that for yourself and be like, no. I am powerful. You're unique. Your body is so smart. You were made for this, right? To carry through these 9 months. So as you're going through your pregnancy, Patty, you're gaining weight. Your belly got rounder and rounder and rounder and rounder. So how did you keep at it?
That was intense. It was, I remember, I think documenting my journey on social media helped a lot too. And, just getting those messages, I would get those positive, I want to say positive messages where, just keep going no matter what. And then the people would tell me at the same time, you should stop, you should slow down. You don't know what you're doing to your baby. And I remember...
How would you feel about that?
It's hard to hear that. But again, at the same time, I'm their opinions. Like I had to tell myself, like, they're not saying it from a bad standpoint. They're just saying it because they care. You know what I mean? So I remember one of the biggest ones, my mom calls me. My mom never calls me to get after me. Like I'm like my mom, like we're just too bubbly. And I remember she calls me and that someone called her, a cheesemate, right? And to tell her like, I saw your daughter jump like on the jump rope, and that she's gonna, what's it called? With the baby with the umbilical cord. Like that could cause that. And my mom was so worried. She's like, Mika, maybe you should stop. You know, you should stop on your fitness journey. Like, you know, slow down, like stop. And I'm like, Mom, that's not you. Like I knew it was not my mom telling me that. Like it had to be someone else. And so I'm like, you know, that's not me. Like the thought of like, if I were to put myself in a slow down mode, I feel like I would have gone crazy. Like I want to say maybe that's where I didn't let that mentally, it hasn't, God willing, I don't go through it, but the whole postpartum part, depression, because it's scary. The thought of like people going through that and like hearing your friends and family experience that, I'm like, God, give me the strength that it could happen to anybody. That's the thing. So
how did you tell your mom and put your foot down to be like?
So the next day I ended up going to the doctor and I asked her, I'm like, so I work out. I never told her what kind of workouts I did. I was just like, I'm just a really active, person. She's like, as long as you feel good, as long as you don't feel like you're harming the baby, as long as you're not falling on your belly, like avoid anything like that, keep on going. And I asked her, I'm like, does jump rope or doing this, does it affect? She's like, especially with the umbilical cord, right? And then she's like, whether you're laying down or whether you're working out, that's unpredictable. Like that, there's nothing that could cause it or nothing that could prevent it. And just the way she said it, I was like, I called my mom right away and I'm like, Miss, like, and that just kind of gave me the strength to keep on going. And I'm grateful that doctor was open to like me working out, because I'm like, because I could not picture my pregnancy without working out. Like I enjoyed it so much.
Now you have baby.
Yes.
Okay, and Patty is dying to get to the workout, to come back to work, right? So tell us, Patty, how was that? I mean, you're somebody that chose to exclusively breastfeed, which all moms are amazing.
Yes,
okay, whether you give formula or breastfeed, we're talking about Patty here. Yes. Patty chose to exclusively breastfeed. So I breastfed for a little bit and was extremely tired at night, exhausted, right? Yes. So, but you're like, I want to come back.
Let's do it.
Already. Okay, how was that? How was that shift?
The transition, I remember, gave birth. Baby was at home within a week. And I personally feel maybe that's what also helped us a lot, that we ended up staying at the hospital for another like 3-4 days.
Why?
The whole waiting for the doctor to come in. Yes, I experienced that. Baby was ready to come out and they tell me wait. And as nice as I am, because I'm such a nice person, I look back, I'm like, how did I still listen? Like, why did I listen? I don't know. So when baby comes out, he's filled with poop. And they were worried whether the baby had inhaled some poop or not. So he had to be sent to a NICU just for, to put him on antibodies, just to make sure he was good. Thankfully, he didn't. But the waiting process, I felt like I waited for 20 minutes for that doctor to arrive. It was probably 10, 15, but it felt forever. But I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I love being nice, but I'm like, how did I wait so long? But I mean, everything happens for a reason. But in those 3-4 days that I was there, I feel we learned so much. We learned so much. Like the nurses were helping us, like how to position the baby, how to feed the baby. I was able to, go back to the room, sleep. I think that was another thing that we knew baby was in good hands. And so I want to say maybe that first week for us, it was probably a blessing in disguise. Just because, yes, it's so scary to be like, my baby was in NICU. But at the same time, for us, it was like, wow, they're helping us. Like, we had professionals helping us. We felt so safe, the monitor, the heartbeat, like everything. Where I feel like when you're at home with a newborn, I feel like that's where, like, so scary. Like, you're just sent with a newborn, and what are you doing? So they taught us a lot. We go with baby, And the breastfeeding, I was already pumping at the hospital. I was already producing the colostrum. And, oh, this is crazy. The first pump I did, well, I didn't know what to do with the little bottle. So the nurse is like, well, 4 hours already passed by. I think it was about 4 hours. So she just grabs it and throws it. My first pump. And she, like, in front of my eyes, and I'm just like, they're like, well, we can't keep it. It's already bad. And because they were transitioning me from room to room. So, like, all this time I'm carrying this little bottle with me. So that was hard to see that, where they're just like, gotta throw it away. And for me, just choosing how to, again, I think I prepped myself through the pregnancy. I prepped myself like, I want to breastfeed. But this is another thing I told myself, if I don't get to breastfeed, I'm not going to like belittle myself. I'm just going to try. Mm-hmm. And as long, people ask me, how long do you want to try? As long as I can. I don't want to give myself a
time,
because I think that's going to mentally affect me so much. Mm-hmm. Like if I tell myself, I'm going to do it for a year and my body's only able to do it for 6 months, I'm going to feel defeated. But no, like I should be like, at least I got to do it for 6 months.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I've mentally been prepping myself since like pregnancy. And even with the whole, I don't want to feel guilty if I work out. That was a huge thing. I would tell my partner, I'm like, hey, whenever I have baby, like I'm going to want to go work out. You know that, right? And he's like, no, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't think he could imagine me not working out right afterwards. And I'm like, but I don't want you to ever make me, like, never make a comment about it. Or if I struggle or you have to stay with baby because I have to go to my workout class. He's like, no, I got you. Like, he knows how much that means to me. But it's not just the workout. I think it has to do with being surrounded with other women. It's not just physically just coming in for a sweat. Mm-hmm. And so I told myself through the whole pregnancy, I'm not going to feel guilty if I leave baby behind with a sweat or with my mom. And another thing, I feel like I've enjoyed it because I enjoy seeing them enjoy their baby, like their baby as well, right? So that's something that I feel personally has helped me a lot, prepping myself.
Prepping your supporters?
Yes.
Prepping your supporters? Like
I'm going to leave them here. They're like, yes, okay.
This is my time. I'm leaving.
Yes. And they're not judging it. And I truly enjoy that. They're not.
Has there been any time during these 3 months that you're like, I don't want to go?
To the workout?
Yeah. No, I don't want to.
No, thankfully, no. Is it hard? Yes. It's been like, before the workout, I have to pump because I'll be in pain. There's been times where, we're teaching class. I'm like, hey, girls, I'm going to go outside. I'll do my pump, like, at least for 10 minutes. And then I'll come back and I'll teach the end of the class. But no, thankfully, it hasn't crossed my mind, but it is hard. Hard in the aspect of figuring it out. Like, okay, I have to get up a little earlier and I have to, the bag, the pumps, the cleaning.
I think that's where people fall off.
Yeah.
In the preparation, of all of this.
Everything,
it's like, it's not really the working out. It's not really, giving yourself the time. It's being someone that could be prepared before time on what do I have to do before that so I could be ready to go there. And you've been able to acquire those disciplines, that priority for yourself, those habits for yourself. And, you've been so clear that, Team Beauty has been able to do that for the first 8 years before being a mom. So, as we end this, Patty, which, just by you expressing yourself, it's like you're such a warrior, because it's not that it's easy for you. It's that there's just no other option. Giving up isn't an option, or I'm going to breastfeed. It's your attitude as much as I can, not how much is too much, how much is perfect, what makes you a better mom or not. It's I'm going to be the best that I can every single day. And that attitude, inspires us. And so what is it that you could share as we wrap it up with our listeners that, you can give them these tips on what does Patty do on the daily, right? What does this routine look like of self-love, of, being in the journey now to your next bod result, whatever that looks like, right? But in this journey of happiness, of feeling fulfilled, of feeling successful, how is Patty preparing herself for that, and how can they apply that in their life this week?
I love that. So a lot. First is what you think, right? First of all, it's like, what thoughts are you having about it? And I think one of the biggest things is just learning to enjoy every minute of it. I've truly enjoyed the waking up in the middle of the night. Trust me, like there's moments where you're like, oh my God, I just want to go back to bed, right? 3 a.m. Or I'm pumping at 5, I'm pumping at 8, or whatever it is. One of the biggest things I think is the blessing of this opportunity that has given me. I've cried, but I've cried for the thought of like, other moms have to go to work at this time. Like other people have to go through it. I remember the first time I cried, it wasn't because of what I was experiencing, but it's like, my friends are single parents. Like, how do they do it? Like, just that. So that was one of my first like meltdowns. The second one is like, I get to wake up a little later. I get to do all that in the middle of the night, but I get to wake up a little later. So I don't feel tired. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Baby's waking up. Like, I already fed him. So I think that's another huge thing, the opportunity that having to be able to stay in a little longer with baby in bed with him. Huge one. I think that was probably the number one. And then I get up, I start getting ready. I'm carrying baby. I'm doing my makeup. Just doing my makeup too. Like, I personally feel like if you're not a person that does makeup, it's okay. But do something that you enjoy doing to yourself. And I think makeup, it just makes me feel like, okay, I'm awake. Let's go. Because if I don't have makeup, I feel like just stay in. It's a lazy day. But putting makeup on makes me feel like it's go time. So that's been a big one for me, just being mentally ready for the day in that aspect. And then, what was the other one that you had asked? Sorry.
And how can they apply that for themselves this week? The routine. Know what, like I mentioned, enjoy your journey, true, but know what you're going for. And learn that it's not going to be in a split of a week or 2 weeks. Like I said it before, like something that happened in 4 years or 5 years, or how long did it take you to gain the weight? Again, we can't expect it to drop it in a month, but not to be hard on yourself. I think that was another thing. I look at myself in the mirror now. Do I have stretch marks? Yes. Did I go through that experience? Yes. But I'm just grateful for it. I'm grateful that I got to experience what motherhood is, because I know there's people that struggle with that. I'm blessed to be able to go through it, and just to truly enjoy what our bodies are capable of doing. Now 3 months postpartum, over 35 pounds down, and I'm like, wow, like, I gained so much weight in my pregnancy, and now I dropped it. Well, I'm still going for more, like, right? I'm not stopping. But that's another thing. I'm not mentally giving myself a timeline. Again, because if I do, I feel like it's just going to hurt me. Like, and why do that to myself? Why put pressure that's not needed? And so with the whole postpartum pregnancy weight loss journey, I'm just going with it. I'm just, as long as I feel good. And I think one advice I could give people, for example, myself, like the clothes doesn't fit me. Like I can't go back to my size 0 and 2 clothes, like ni de broma, right? So start shopping for clothes that fits you, this type of body type. Because I think that has to do a lot. Like if I start wearing small, well, I'm going to feel like so tight. 1, it doesn't fit me properly. 2, I don't feel good in it. And I'm just going to feel depressed. So I'm like, okay, start shopping to what, my ideal size right now currently. Am I going to go for the small? Yes, but I'm not going to add stress to it. But I think it's been the 8 years prepping myself to love your journey. I love it, Patty. You have shared with so much grace, so much peace. Like you could feel it in the room, and I'm pretty sure in the space that you are truly enjoying your journey. And, I just want to end this podcast with, if we stay consistent, then we're progressing forward, right? Consistency is progression. It doesn't matter how fast, how slow. Enjoy the journey. And we truly wish each and every single one of you that is in your 8-week journey here before the Boots and Bling Team Video Rodeo. What are you going to wear, Patty?
Oh my God. Every day I find something new. I'm like this.
We're so excited for the bling and the boots. So, as you're working on your journey, stay connected, stay plugged in, empower yourself through these podcasts, empower yourself through your chats to the community, and reach out, forward this podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube or Spotify, forward it to somebody that needs to hear what Patty shared with us today. We love you so much. Thank you for sharing ahead of time, right? And we will see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks.